Hey there guys, welcome to my YouTube page. Thank you so much for joining me if you are. My name is The Average Critic, and I just want to say a few things before I get this video started because it is my first ever video, and so I'm so excited to be doing this. Before we do start, I just want to say, obviously my YouTube page is hopefully going to be about film reviews. I want to do film reviews and talk about film discussions and all that kind of stuff. That's something that is very, very passionate to me. But I just want to focus on a few things just for now to hopefully get my YouTube page growing and get it going. And so I'm going to be starting with doing a film reviews of all the Pixar movies because I'm a huge Pixar fan, and they've always been some of my favourite films to date, and so I'm going to be doing them in order. So obviously today we're starting with Toy Story, and then by the end we'll get to whichever the newest Pixar movie has come out by then. Hopefully I want to do a video a week. I'm really going to try and stick to that. Fingers crossed I do, I hope I do, because this is something I want to do, obviously, of course. Before we do start though, I just want to tell you about my ratings, because obviously at the end of every video I will give a score out of 10, for instance, but I'm going to have a personal rating and I'm going to have a professional rating. So basically what that means is, like, for instance, I'll have my professional, so sometimes I'll see a film and I'll go, okay, I know that's a good film, but I don't like it, and so I think people get that a lot. And there'll be a lot of films that are on this list where maybe sometimes the ratings will be the same, sometimes they'll be vastly different. For instance, one of my favourite Pixar movies is usually considered one of the more weaker Pixar movies, so that'll be on this list, and we'll get to that obviously when we get to that video. But thank you very much for joining me, and we can hopefully talk about this. So yeah, let's get to Toy Story. Thank you. So if you don't know, and I can't think why you don't, and you've never seen this movie, but Toy Story starts us by introducing us to every character in the film through the eyes of Andy as he plays with his toys. We get introduced to the grouchy Mr. Potato Head, the fearful dinosaur Rex, the loyal dog Slinky, and of course the favourites, Woody the cowboy. Not to mention a load of other brilliant characters as well. And on this day, it is Andy's birthday party, and one of the presents Andy receives is a new toy in the form of Buzz Lightyear, a space ranger who doesn't actually believe he is a toy, and he thinks he is a real-life spaceman on another world as he quests to find his way back to his home planet. Now, Toy Story came out in 1995, in a time when animated movies were still highly popular thanks to the works of Disney. Pixar was an entirely new company in the eyes of the big budget movies. Before that, they were mostly known for doing short movies and were obsessed with using computer animation to animate their films, as opposed to the traditional 2D drawn animation that Disney used. So you have to remember, at the time, this was a huge deal. It was the first ever computer animated movie ever. I mean, depending on the scene, it took each frame 45 minutes and up to 30 minutes to render, and this film is 81 minutes long. It's not a standard short film. So not only was this the first computer animated film, but it went through a big production hell. It changed scripts several times, and it really struggled to make characters likeable, particularly Woody, who started out as an intimidating bully. It wasn't until Joss Whedon, that's right, Joss Whedon, the guy who directed Avengers and brought us the fantastic show Firefly, came in to rewrite the script to make Woody the cowboy that we love today. The story of Toy Story is incredible, dissimilar to a lot of Disney movies that came prior to it. A love story wasn't a focus to it, it didn't have an evil villain trying to take over the world, and also it didn't have any musical numbers. This made a huge difference to Disney films at the time, such as Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, which contained all of the above. But let's talk about that music for a second. I'm going to come out and say, I love the score of Toy Story. Randy Newman is quite simply a genius and perfect for these films. The three main songs are storytelling galore. The first one, Strange Things, with its catchy lyrics and jazzy funk, it's a perfect narrative for Woody's feelings at the time. And then we have I Will Go Sailing No More, which is probably one of the most heartbreaking songs I have ever heard. Even though you know Buzz will ultimately discover that he is just a toy, his obliviousness and realization is incredibly heart-wrenching to watch, that you can't help but feel sorry for him. And need I say more about You've Got a Friend in Me? The song sums up the whole movie in a 2-minute songs and is probably one of the best songs ever created. Now, at the time when animated movies had a certain formula, Toy Story goes in the opposite direction in pretty much every way. A huge reason as to why Toy Story was so different is looking into a large portion of what we consider animated movies to be, which is family friendly or a film for all the ages. Now, obviously, Toy Story is completely family friendly, but most of us adults look at animated movies are for kids. But if the parents can enjoy the movie, then it makes the movie have a bigger impact and much more enjoyable for everybody involved. I'm looking at you, trolls. But if you have seen any Pixar movie ever, you could easily argue that Pixar movies are not for children, and Toy Story is no exception. To the sexual remarks made by Bo Peep, to Woody wanting to swear but can't because there is, quote, preschool toys present, and the horrific styled scenes in Sid's house, this film has so much mature content, I'm surprised this was never picked up on at the time. Now, obviously these moments go over children's head very easily, as there are some great slapstick and comedic moments, but Toy Story and most Pixar movies are, let's face it, in my opinion, films that are made for adults that children can enjoy as well, as opposed to the more natural and normal films that are made for children that adults can enjoy. Toy Story also doesn't play to the stereotypical girl's mind of wanting to be a princess, and playing to the stereotypical boy's mind of wanting to be the heroic hero. It's about two toys who have flaws. They don't have magical powers, and they express real emotions that really adults can relate to way more than children. I mean, Buzz being drunk on tea and drinking his sorrows away is not only comedy perfection, but also leads to one of the best lines in the film.
You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit. Snap out of it, Buzz!
Going back to how the film doesn't have a love interest at the centre of it makes it very refreshing. It's about friendship, trust, and characters. This makes it very invigorating to not have a love interest in the core of the story. The characters are relatable because the story is contained in how Buzz and Woody become friends. They don't sail off into the sunset getting married, they learn to settle their differences and become friends. When you think about it, Toy Story has an unbelievably simple narrative, and we all know that keeping things simple can lead to wondrous things. So if you haven't seen Toy Story, I would seriously ask where have you been all your life, but obviously it's still an incredible film that holds up today. You could argue that in today's times the animation is a little outdated, but it honestly doesn't bother me one bit. Because of what Toy Story is, it changed animated movies forever, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a storytelling narrative. And so after all that, this gives my professional rating of Toy Story a perfect 10 out of 10. But my personal rating of 8 out of 10, pushing it just a little lower. Don't get me wrong, I love this movie, but out of all of Pixar's, it's not my favourite. Watching it again in 2021, most Pixar movies have improved in every way from Toy Story. But it was the spark that started it all, and without it, we'd have nothing to what we have now. Thank you so much for joining me for my first ever video. Tune in next week when we're going to be talking about A Bug's Life, which is one of my favourite Pixar movies ever. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below why Toy Story was such a big deal for you. And also, I'd love to hear your feedback on my videos. Anything to help me produce better content, please comment down below what you think I could be doing better. And thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.